Hi everyone, welcome to this video on how to create a survey. My name is Suzanne and I'm going to walk you through the steps of creating a survey. The first thing to do is to go to the Leicester Students' Union website using this web address, leicesterunion.com. You'll then need to log in, so if you go to the top right and click login, and then go to the student login, and then click sign in. You then need to go to admin, so top right, and then click on surveys. So as you can see, I've already created a survey, which is what I'm going to use to demonstrate through this video. But if you are yet to create a survey, you will need to click on new survey, where the green plus icon is, and a blank template will appear. I'm just going to go back to the survey that I've already created, and you'll see it's exactly the same template. So the first part to fill in is the details. So as you can see, my title is Aspects of Ignite to Carry Forward to the Next Academic Year. It's obviously up to you what your title is. It's just important that it's clear in the title what the survey is about for your cohort. The next part is the short name. So I've just used 3 letters from 2 words in my title, but I could have written something like Psych 2 Ignite. That would have meant Psychology Year 2 and my topic is Ignite. Just remember that this short name will appear in your URL so everybody will see it. And to me, it just makes sense to use words from your title to keep it simple. The next part is the members only box. You should leave this unticked. If you were to select members only, it means that you can only fill in the survey if you are logged in as a student, and this can act as a barrier to receiving as many responses as possible. But it is up to you, and if you do tick it, it means that only your cohort can complete the survey, and there is no risk for outsiders to skew your data, whilst you can keep users' data anonymous by ticking the box below the anonymous responses. And this will often mean that you receive a higher number of responses as it keeps respondents' details anonymised. But again, this is up to you. If you feel it will not deter your audience, then you can keep it unticked. It will just mean that you will receive a small amount of information about each respondent if it is relevant to understanding the data better. The next part is the date range. It's set as a default of 1 week, so just ensure you set up the date so it's accessible for the time intended. Don't forget that it will time out at midnight on the last day, so the first minute of the last day chosen. So for mine, it would time out at 1 minute into the 7th of July. So just be aware of that and make sure your dates and your times encompass the amount of time that you want your cohort to have access. The next part is a response type. So we advise that you keep it as single, but if you click on the drop down, there's a few other options. So editable means they'll be able to go in and edit their responses. Multiple means that they could submit multiple responses. But again, this is up to you. We advise single because otherwise your data could be changing quite a lot. The next part and the final part of the details section is these 2 text boxes. The first one, as you can see, appears at the start of the survey. So I've just written how long it will take to fill in, the amount of questions, the aim of the survey, and said that their views are highly valued and it will make a big difference. But again, this is up to you. It will be dependent on your survey and your cohort. The next part is this text box that's going to appear after they've completed the survey. So I've just put a short message to say thank you and what the next steps will be, so where the results will be. But again, this is up to you what you'd like to write here. Click save. This will create your survey. You can then go back into it and go to the next part of the editing the survey. Just before we move on, I just wanted to mention that these blue circles with the question mark, if you hover over them, they do give you a bit more information about the parts that you need to fill in to create the survey. So if we go to the next part, which is the sections, you have to create at least one section so that you can add questions, but if you would like more, you can add as many as you would like to. If your survey is addressing 2 or more areas and you want to organise the questions by topic, it is advised that you create a few sections. I've just created one here that you can see is called Ignite Reflection. To add a new section, you just need to click New Section with the green plus icon. And all you need to fill in is the title. You don't need to fill in anything else here, and just click Save. So if we move on to the next part, which is the questions. So I've just added 3 questions here. I will show you how to create a new question. Just to note, if you only have one question, it would be best to do a poll rather than a survey, and there is a video to explain how to create a poll on the SU Voice YouTube page. So the first thing to do if you want to add a question is click Add New Question with the green icon, green plus icon. And the key parts to fill in are the question, label, and the type. Other parts can be left blank. So the question could be something like, which of these were the most helpful, if you wanted, or we could just put something like, were online lectures useful? And my label might be useful, or it could be lectures, but you might already have a question with lectures in. It's important to have a label that does identify the question, because it's useful when the data is analysed to identify the question rather than having a number. It's much better to have a keyword. And then for the type, there's quite a few different types of questions, and I'll just run through them briefly. So you've got the single line text box and multi-line text box, quite self-explanatory. Single line only allows 1 line for the answer, multiple line allows more. The next one, which is the drop-down list, this allows respondents to choose one value from a list, so you can have multiple choices, but it's in a drop-down, so it will save a bit of space. The radio button list is where you can have a set of options, but only one can be selected, whereas checkbox list means that they can select more than one. Please ignore postal address. You are never going to be asking a student for their address on a survey. And the slider type of question isn't very user-friendly. It literally means they can slide across to select their answer, so it could be from 1 to 10 or something. However, you can do the same thing but with a horizontal radio button list. So you could have from 1 to 10, or you could have from strongly disagree, then agree, and strongly agree as 3 separate options horizontally, and they can just choose one of them. It's much more user-friendly than the slider, and obviously does the same job. And then you'll just see that they've got the checkbox list as well, which is horizontal, where they could choose multiple options. So I'm just going to select single line text box for this one as to demonstrate. The next box is content. You can leave this empty, but as an example, it could be more information about, for example, the module, a specific lecture you were asking about. And it's just in case you need extra information, but if it's self-explanatory, then you can just leave it. The help text is similar to the content, so it's just a place to add a bit of a prompt. So it might be a prompt such as, we are looking for a personal opinion here. The next part, so the mandatory text box, checkbox that you can tick. We don't advise that you tick this because, for example, for opinion rather than fact, it should be a choice whether they fill it in. So you can have them unticked for all of them, but obviously it is up to you. And if it is a question that is required, you can tick that box, and in the required text box, you can put something like, it is required to answer this question to move on. But just be aware it could deter your audience from answering. And then the rest of the boxes don't need to be filled in. So just to recap, the boxes that you must fill in are the question, the label, and the type. And then if we click save, you'll see we'll go back to all the questions. If you go up to the top, you'll see it says questions saved. You can then click on questions and you can see all of the questions that I've created so far. And if you wanted to reorder your questions, you can select the relevant section on the section filter, click select, and then you can move them about using these arrows. I'll just show you the other ones that I've created. So if I go into them, if you click on the actual question title, I did this one as a drop-down list, and as you can see, I haven't filled in the content or the help text or required text. I've just got these two options to say yes or no. And to do this, you just click on add multiple options, and you can just type it like that. Just click enter and click add, and then it will appear just like these two options here. If I go back to the top and show you the other question I created. So this is a multi-line text box. Again, there's nothing in the content, but I have written, we are looking for a personal opinion here, which will appear beneath the question. And you'll see this when I preview the survey a little bit later in this video. And then you can go back to the top and go back to questions, and I'll just show you the last one. So this is a checkbox list, which is where they can select multiple options. So as you can see, there's a few more options. The arrows to reorganize the options are there as well. And to do this, I just added them as multiple options and clicked add. You can also add options singularly as well. So you just type it in here and click save. So on to the two final parts now. So notifications. The response notification, we usually keep this off because that notifies you when a response is complete, but we generally keep it off because you can still go into the surveys and you do get a breakdown of how many. So you can see it says at the moment responses none, but it would tell you how many people have responded so far. But if I just go back into the notifications, and if we look at response acknowledgement, it sends an email after they've completed the survey. But again, it's not necessary when you already have the thank you message at the end of the survey. And it doesn't work if the survey is anonymous because there is no email to send it to. But if your survey isn't anonymous, what you could do is you go in, and as you can see, I've filled it in already. So you have to tick this box to enable these notifications and then fill it in as what you'd like it to say. And just to note that this part will appear as the name of the person that has set up the survey. So in this case, mine would just pull it from my Students' Union setup. It would pull it as Suzanne. Whereas if you wanted to have it coming from a few of you, so all of the course reps, you might want to put everybody's name here. And you can send a test to yourself, which is handy to see exactly how it appears, and then alter it if you're not happy. And then just click Save Changes, and the emails will send every time somebody has filled it in. So then the final part is the reports. So the tick box, if you tick this box, it will include people who have filled in half of the survey or just a few of the questions. And you don't really want to tick it because it will just add to your data incomplete responses. But if you want to, you can. And then the reports below are for when the survey has been completed. You can create a detailed responses report, which can be quite complicated to analyse, but you can get in contact with us if you need help with that. And then the summary report as well. It's not as useful to present data, but again, you can always have a look at it. And then a really important part is to preview your survey. So what you need to do, I've opened it in another tab, is go to leicesterunion.com/surveys/your short name, and then it will appear and you can click start. You'll see that this is the message that appears before they will start the survey. And then you'll see the questions that I showed you that I'd created. So this is the drop down and how it will look. This is a multi-line text box. This is the checkbox list, so they can select multiple, and this is the single line text box. But the important thing here is to not click finish, because if you click finish, this will record a response for your survey, and then it will mean you can't edit the survey. So if you do click finish by accident or prior to listening to this, then you can copy the survey and edit it, but it's not advisable, as then you'll have to change the short name and it can create unnecessary duplicates. So it's a good idea, once you've checked it, to just click cancel and come out of it, and then you could go back and you could edit your questions, for example. So this is the end of the video. We hope you found this helpful and that it allows you to reach out to your peers and enables you to collect a large number of responses to improve aspects of your course. If you do have any questions at all, whether they are just small points to clarify from this video or you would like a one-to-one meeting to go through it, please do not hesitate to contact us at coursereps@le.ac.uk.